Okay, hi folks. I'm Chris Saxon. I'm part of Stephen Feuerstein's Oracle Developer Advocate team. It's my job to help you get best out of Oracle database and hopefully have a little bit of fun while doing so. So that's why I'm really excited about these office hour sessions. It's a chance for you to ask us your questions about Oracle database, how to use that technology. Today, we're going to be focusing on something a bit special, something hopefully I'm sure you've all heard of a little bit at least. That's the Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. Luckily, I've got with me Keith Laker, who is the expert on this, and he's going to show us a demo and get going. So do you want to take it away, Keith?
Okay, thanks, Chris. Now, how to share this screen. So, I think I want that one.
And it's coming up. There we go. We've got a nice green background there. All your fields.
Green background. That should be there.
Yep, got your slides.
Okay. Except we need it that way.
Yeah, so that's better.
Results.
Perfect. Okay then.
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Keith Laker. I am part of the product management team that is responsible for delivering Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. Hopefully you've all heard about it. We are currently running workshops around EMEA and the rest of the world. There's quite a few lined up for Asia Pacific as well as in the US. So it's always worth looking on the Oracle website and keeping an eye on that on oracle.com on the Autonomous Database page to see where we're presenting. If you want to join one of those sessions, you're more than welcome to. It's a full day and we have a hands-on lab in the afternoon, so you get 3 to 4 hours of hands-on time with the product. Talking with Chris and Stephen earlier this week, we thought it would be useful to sort of kick off with Chris through the SQL Office Hours workshop, a whole series of Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud Office Hours events. We may eventually split this off into a separate office hours. So if autonomous technology or data warehousing is your thing and you want to get more information on it, we're going to try and set up a dedicated track for that. So I know we've had a lot of coverage in the press, etc., about the product. We launched it at Open World last year. In the data centers that we have in the US and EMEA around the world, you should see this new service available to you. So if you've got cloud credits, you've got a cloud account, you can log in, you should see this new service. And my aim today is to quickly go through a brief set of slides. I just want to do a quick bit of positioning, make sure everybody understands the product, understands the aims and objectives, because it is slightly different to some of the other services that we've launched on the database side. So I want to get that sort of positioning set up with you, and then we'll flip over and I'll start working through the product with you live through our cloud accounts, through my personal cloud account. So what we've aimed to do with this product is 3 basic things. We are looking to make everyone's life easier. So from the DBA's point of view, we are trying to deliver to you a fully managed, pre-configured, optimized environment for supporting your data warehouse projects. So all of the usual work that you would go through of setting up and configuring your database, we'll take care of all of that for you, which means you can log in, provision the database, hand it to the project team, and move on to the next big item on your to-do list. For BI users, for developers, also for DBAs, we're trying to give you what we define as a load and run service. So it's a very simple way to load data and then just straight away start running your queries. When you define the data load process, you don't have to worry about indexes, you don't have to create partitions. It's a very, very simple process. We will, behind the scenes, manage that data set for you and ensure that you get the best query performance. We are sitting on top of Exadata technology, so we're leveraging all of the capabilities. If you've got Exadata in your data center today, you'll know about all the features that are in there that make it extremely powerful as a hardware platform, the database technology. That's what's sitting underneath Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. The nice thing here is that as your data warehouse grows or as your workload expands, you can very quickly and easily increase your processing power by adding more compute or your storage with no downtime. And hopefully we'll get a chance to show that to you, demonstrate that to you, the fact that you can add more compute while you're still running queries. Those queries continue to run in the background with no interruption to service. And there's no fixed sizes here either. If you want just one more CPU, you can have one more CPU. If you just want 1 more terabyte of storage, you can just ask for 1 terabyte of storage. There's no pre-configured sizes. So the whole management process is, if you're a DBA, a cloud DBA, or a traditional DBA, we've got a very simplified console. Hopefully also some of your developers, your BI report builders, your line of business users will also find this service, this interface, simple enough that they can get on and do a lot of the things that they would normally come to you as DBAs and say, okay, I need to do this. So we're trying to give everyone a self-service environment. So the idea is you can provision databases from a very simple cloud interface. You can expand or shrink the service depending on how much or how little resources you actually need. All the patching and upgrade information will be taken care of by us, and we will notify you through this cloud console that patching or upgrades are going to run. And all of the backup and recovery process is controlled from within here. And the backup process is fully automated. So there's nothing you need to set up. And you'll see as we go through the actual building a whole new instance, how little information that we ask you for and how much is actually fully automated. Now, if you want to script all this, obviously we have a very nice, simple, user-friendly UI to do all this, but you can script if you want to do scripting. We have a REST API, so all of the clicks that you're going to see me do during this session, you'll be able to do via REST API calls as well. As I said, we are sitting on top of an Exadata platform as we deliver this cloud service. What that gives us is a very, very super fast platform. Now you can connect any business intelligence data warehouse tool that is able to talk to the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. The cloud infrastructure itself is protected. It's encrypted, the whole environment. So we have a wallet system to provide access and ensure that people coming into the cloud and into your Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud are authorized. And we'll look at that wallet system in a moment. A lot of our BI tools, data integration tool vendors are certifying that this wallet structure works with their tools, and therefore they have the ability then to just be able to load data and connect is going to be very, very straightforward. In terms of providing a load and go service model with the very best performance, we have done some comparisons between customer schemas as they are today running in their data center on their own hardware with very, very smart DBAs who have tuned these systems to the point where they're running as fast as they possibly can. They have, we have taken those workloads and their schemas and their data sets, moved them and simply loaded them into Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud, and then run those same workloads. So not doing any of the tuning, any of the hinting, any of the indexing, any of the optimizations that DBA teams have been building up over the years. we've simply taken that workload, moved it to the cloud, and then just run the queries. And as you can see here, in a lot of cases, we are as good as the current performance. And in many cases, we're actually faster because we have the ability to work behind the scenes. We've switched on a lot of the database features that you know about, that we've added from 9i all the way up to 18c. We've enabled all of those specific features relating to data warehouse and performance tuning, switch them on by default, and as we load them in, those features kick in automatically, transparently behind the scenes. You're not aware of what's going on. The result being that we're able to deliver very, very good performance from a very simple load and go service. So as I said, you're not tied to specific sizes. So as you want to expand or grow your data warehouse, you don't have to pick specific size, predefined shapes for your growing model. So it's not as if we have small, medium, large compute blocks and you pick the one that most matches what it is that you want to move to. So you can pick and add any amount of storage, any number of CPUs at any point in time. It all scales online, as we'll see during this demo. And quite usefully, if you get, say, to a Friday afternoon, everybody's going home for the weekend, you can save money by turning the system off. And I'll show you how that works as well. So at that point, you can switch off your compute nodes and the compute clock for billing you switches off, which allows you to manage the data warehouse. The cost of running that data warehouse gives you a lot more control over that. Again, you can script that turning it off and turning it on, and both of those happen very, very quickly. It's not like sort of shutting down a whole Exadata system and then starting it back up again. If you've done that in your data center, that can take some time to do. This is all pretty much instantaneous of shutting down and restarting. So let's quickly have a look at the architecture, what it is that we deliver. So if you sign up with your cloud account, you'll get access to something called Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. I'll show you where you can find that in the Cloud Console in a minute. And we give you two built-in web interfaces, one for the management side, the Service Console, and the other is a SQL notebook tool called Oracle ML, which allows you to connect to your Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud and run some queries. Typically, you're going to connect to your own developer tools. In this demo that I'm going to show you today, we're going to look at SQL Developer. So we'll show you how to connect that up. And SQL Developer has got some additional features in it now. If you download the latest version, which I think is 18.1 from OTN, you'll get some new features within that which relate specifically to Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. And I'll show you some of those as we go through. Of course, other cloud services like our data integration cloud platform, if you've got third-party data integration tools that you want to put on our compute cloud, you're welcome to do that. And of course, you can tie in with on-premise data integration tools, whether those are Oracle or non-Oracle. As part of the data loading process and as part of Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud, there's an additional service that comes, which is called the Object Storage Cloud. And this is a great place to put your files, your ETL files, and stage those to optimize the load performance going into the database. And I'll show you how we get access to those files when we look at the demo. And then, of course, query access. While we provide a SQL notebook, obviously you want to connect up your own tools. And we've just announced the Autonomous Analytics Cloud that has capability to connect to Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud, so you can have the autonomous management of your data storage and the autonomous management of your analytics, all within the same cloud. So for the sort of autonomous data warehouse office hours, what I was planning to do was sort of go through a whole series of workshops to show you, how to get set up first of all. How do you log in with your account? How do you configure client access and so on? How do we load data? How do you go about managing this data? What does the management console actually tell you? How much detail can you go into, given that this is an autonomous service? And finally, the sort of the visualizations. How can you use some of the visualization tools that we provide to connect and run, and how can you set up and configure those? For today, I just sort of want to focus primarily on the sort of, let's get started. How would you, as new people to maybe the Oracle Cloud or to the Autonomous Data Warehouse, how would you get set up? So that's roughly what I want to cover. And the first part that we're going to do is very, very simple. We're actually just going to create a new instance in the Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. If you're used to connecting up and setting up, configuring stuff in databases, whatever it is inside the Oracle Cloud, you'll be familiar with some of the screens. Probably what you're not familiar is how little information we actually ask you for. And we're going to work through that, and I'll explain what's going on in the background, what you don't need to worry about, and what gets covered. The service itself, you'll see, should be up in around 30 seconds. So we're going to deploy hardware, we're going to set up all the network connections and everything, we're going to install a database, configure it, have it optimized for the data warehouse, all within 30 seconds. So from a database perspective, what you'll see going on in the background is a lot of things are going to happen. So let's come out of that and let's go to here. So the first thing that you will do, let me come back out of this, is you'll typically go to cloud.oracle.com. So this is our landing pad. This is where you're going to start. Now, I already have a cloud account. If you want to try any of the services free of charge, you can click here and we'll set you up with $300 of free credits that will last you for about 30 days. And at that point, it's not tied to any service. You can use any service that you want, including the Autonomous Data Warehouse. So we'll give you roughly 4,000 hours of time and about a terabyte of storage for you to play with. All you need is credit card. That's about it. And we're not going to bill you. To point out, we just need the credit card for reference purposes, but we will not bill you in any way. And at the end of that period, you're free to either start being billed or tell us you've had enough and you'll let the account go. You'll let it lapse. So once you sign up, you'll be able to click here. So then you can sign in. We will give you a cloud account name. So mine is actually called this, which I set up earlier. So you'll get a cloud account name. We'll let you log in and it will bring you into this dashboard. Now, sometimes this is what it may look like is actually that. You currently have no services shown. Now you can either customize this dashboard, and in here you will see all of the services that we currently support, including Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. So I can say show, and that will now pop up. If it doesn't pop up, if when you click in here you definitely can't see it, it's not in this list, that may be because you already have a cloud account and maybe it's not correctly configured at this point. We are having some technical challenges, shall we say, with some of the existing cloud customers making new services available to them. If that is the case, if you click on the hamburger menu and then click on Services. Now, sometimes it will appear here. So you may be able to access it here. Click on Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. If you don't, if you just click on Database and go to Database Cloud Service, that will log in, hopefully. And it will bring you to here. You will then be able to see Autonomous Data Warehouse. Hopefully, when you log in, you will find from the main console page that you've got the ability to bring up that little dialog box that says Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. Now, one thing I've forgotten is, let me come out of that and go back into here. So I'll go back to the main dashboard page. So hopefully you end up with something like this. Now, the interesting part here is that we have more than one data center. So actually, I am currently working in or from our Frankfurt data center. So I'm going to swap over to our Frankfurt data center and work from there. So you can see I have another Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. I have one available in Ashburn in the US, and I have another one available in EMEA. So this is my Frankfurt environment. So here you can see it tells me how much credit I've got, how much I've used. You'll see the same information. If there's any notifications about ongoing maintenance to our cloud infrastructure, that will pop up here. So to get access to Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud, I'm going to click on the little menu here, and it will say Open Service Console. So I'm going to open my Service Console. I now have to log in again. And we will arrive at the Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud environment. So you can see here, I've already built one instance. I have two databases, 4 CPUs being used, and we've used 2 terabytes of storage. So I've got 2 systems running here. It gives me create dates for them, and I can drill down and see if there's any information about creation or deletion errors in the last 24 hours. So here we are. Let's click create and build a whole new instance. So here we go. So you'll see first point that I need to do, and let's call this SQL Office Hours Demo. Okay, so there's my database name. I can give it a description. Not totally necessary, but always useful. It's got my email notification, always useful to have that in there, because as databases get created, as they're scaled, etc., you'll get notifications coming through to your email account to say, we've added more CPUs, we've decreased the storage, the database has stopped, the database has started, so on and so forth. Now you can see here I've also got a region option, and I'm going to go into our Frankfurt data center. I'm going to take, let's go 2 CPUs, I'll take 1 terabyte of storage, and now the most complicated part is actually trying to work out a suitable password. Now, there are requirements here, and it's always useful to write the passwords down, and they are, if I click on this bit, see, it has to be between 12 and 60 characters, 1 lowercase, 1 uppercase, 1 number. So it has to be quite a good password to allow us to do that. That's it. That's all we need. So you can create a new database incredibly quickly. So let's just hit create, and we're ready to go, and it's off. So we're now building that new instance. It's off. We're acquiring resources. You'll notice as part of that, there was no request to say, which database version do you want? Do you want 12C? Do you want 12.2? Do you want 18C? All of that is managed for you. We will always be on the most up-to-date version of whichever database version we're running. So at the moment it's 18.1. When 18.2's out, we'll move it to 18.2, so forth. So we won't ask you for a database version. We don't ask you for specific sizes of compute. Do you want, 2 node, 4 node, 6 node? It's just how many CPUs. You can have as many as you want or as few as you want. How much storage? There's no database options there, you'll notice. There's no high performance option or extreme performance option. There's no information about how the backups are going to be managed. How often do they run? Where does the backup data get pushed to? How is it pushed there? How frequently? All of that information, again, it's an autonomous solution. So a lot of the day-to-day operations that you would typically expect and that you see when you go to database cloud service or Exadata cloud service, we have taken care of all of that. We've automated it. And this process of creating this service is doing all of that. Let me get rid of that. It's putting all of that in place. Done. There we go. So now I think if we click down here, there it is. And it took, so it started at 125.03. So it took about 40 seconds to build a complete new instance. Sorry, 140, 1 minute 40 seconds to build a whole new instance into our Frankfurt system. So if you think about how often you've deployed a whole new database in terms of bringing up the hardware, bringing up the networking, and doing all of that, putting in the database software, doing that in 1 minute 40 seconds, I think that's pretty cool. I think that's really, really smart that we can deliver databases that fast. And it doesn't matter how many CPUs you ask for, how much storage you ask for. It's the time it takes to bring up the database, the time it takes to do any of the operations is roughly the same. The size is largely irrelevant to us. So here's my database. What can we do with it now? Again, if we click on here, we can do a number of things at this point. So either I can start the service when it's already started. If I want to think, okay, well, I'm not actually going to do anything with this till tomorrow. It's come up so fast, I wasn't expecting that. I'm ahead of my to-do list. For my project team, I'll stop this and start it when they're ready to start using it tomorrow. We could stop it right now. And then the CPU billing stops running. So now we don't get billed for that service. Or we can scale the service, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So let's go and have a look at the service console. So the first thing I need to do is provide my admin username and password that I put in on that previous screen. And here we go. So my basic dashboard, my basic menu here, obviously I've got no queries running, and the average response time for SQL is not going to be anything because we haven't done anything yet. And I've used basically no storage whatsoever, which is pretty good. If I look at activity, you'll see, okay, everything's coming up and then everything's settled down. So there's nothing going on here. Let me go to this one and you'll get a little bit more if I flip open onto this service console. So this is one that I've been using for a couple of days now. You can see here, I've got spikes when I was running queries yesterday. I was running some queries this morning. I can go into the activity and you can see the activity, some of the queries that I've been running across my instance over the well, through this morning. I can drill into that. Just wait for that database activity graph to come back. It's going to come. There we go. So you can see we'll give you basic information about applications, what those are doing in terms of database activities, CPU, system I/O, users, and other I/O. And if you want to focus in on a particular area, you have a graph up here that allows you to zoom in on a particular time zone and focus and see exactly what was running on that. So I had some queries running, and we'll look at these in a minute. We have 3 resource groups: high, medium, and low queries, low resource groups. We'll look at those in a minute when we get into sort of the next stage of this. So let's stick with this system because it's actually been up and running. What we should be able to do is go into here, and we should find, we click on backup. Did we get any backups? I may not have been able to start a backup yet because I only created it yesterday evening. So your backups appear on here. Ooh. And you can do the restore from here. So your backups get listed. I don't know if Nigel has any on his. I click on Nigel's backups. Great. So Nigel's got 2 backups that have run. So we've run a full initial backup, and then on May the 9th at 8:44 p.m. we had an incremental backup which ran for that. So I could now use, I could either restore from the incremental or restore from the full backup. So all of the backup processing, that's when you purchase, or agree to purchase the Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud, or however you consume the Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud, the backup process is included in that cost. So all of the backup storage that we require doesn't come out of your 1 terabyte allocation. So on here, I go back to here, it says I've not used, I've used 984 meg of 1 terabyte. As we do backups, as we do all those incremental backups for you, we're not counting that as part of your storage allocation. The whole backup, how we store that, how we manage it, that's all taken care of by Oracle, and it's all included in the ongoing pricing of your service. Okay, so we've got a database, we've got it up and running. Let's stick with this one because it's actually doing things. How do we connect tools to it? So I said that everything's encrypted. We're encrypted end to end. As the data comes in, it comes in through an encrypted pipe, and then we use transparent data encryption inside the database to keep the data completely secure. So the whole end-to-end process is secured. Therefore, we need a secure wallet process to be able to make connections. So what the first step we have to do, having created a completely new database, if we want to connect, for example, my SQL Developer environment, what I need to do is download a wallet file. So this file is going to contain the details of how to connect to my new data warehouse using a secure method. So I give it a password, and it's going to set that up. And if I click download, that will go off. And what you get is this. So let's go and have a quick look at that. So here we go. So let's drop that to there, and let's just unzip that. Okay, so what do you get? You get a wallet SSO file. If you're going to connect with other tools, if you've got your own Java applications, you can connect using some of these capabilities. So you can set your Java systems up to use either key stores or P12 or trust stores. For those of us that are used to the more usual SQLnet information, this file also contains the SQLnet connection details as well as the TNS information. And in one of the later sessions that we'll do as part of this Office Hours thing, we'll look at how to connect desktop tools using these SQLnet.aura, TNSnames.aura, and this secure wallet to set up and configure your local TNS names environment to connect to an autonomous data warehouse cloud. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new connection. So let's call this GKL demo, or let's call it Office Hours demo. Oops, go backwards. Office Hours demo. And the first thing I'm going to have to do is obviously connect with my admin user. Okay, so I need admin. I need my password to connect. We'll just save that. Okay, so the connection type, I should point out I'm using SQL Developer 18.1. What you'll find is there's a new connection type called Cloud PDB. So I can connect that. What I have to do now is go off and go to my home folder, my downloads folder, and find that wallet, which is there. And I have to give it the key store password that I entered when I created it. Okay, so now if you spotted what happened very quickly was this service name got set up and got populated. And if we pull that down, you will see there are various services called high, medium, and low. And because, if I go back here, I've got 3 instances within my cloud environment. So I'm signing in as a specific user. As that user, I have created 3 cloud instances. Therefore, in SQL Developer, I see high, medium, and low for each of those groups. So that instance, my SQL Office Hours demo environment, my database NBPE, and then GKL demo. So we'll take GKL demo. So that's this one. Okay, so that's the one I created earlier, and I can test that. Aha, success. So we can now connect. And now I can do a basic query. And we should be able to get a query. Yes, excellent. So now we have a connection. Now, what can we do with this? Do we actually have anything there? The first thing we'll probably want to do is create some new users. So if I do, let's call it, okay, GKL. Let's call it GKL demo. Oh, crikey, if I could spell. Identified by, let's just say GKL demo again. Okay, yes, so again we get this, it has to be a reasonable password. And we'll do something like that, and maybe stick an exclamation mark in. Oh, crazy. Oh, because it doesn't like that. Let's try that. No. Oh,
Try putting a hash in it. Put in a hash in it, Keith.
Put a hash in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's try that and see if sometimes it will do it. No, it won't. It doesn't.
It's lowercase characters as well.
It's gonna do. I tell you what, we'll try this.
You got one you made earlier.
Yeah, here's one I made earlier. I should have just gone with the one I made earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now we do need some privileges. So we need to grant DW role to GKL demo. This sets me up with everything that I need to be able to work within Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. So now I have that, so I don't have to go through and do connect, resource, and all the other options. There are elements to Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud that we bundled up, that we tried to, again, simplify as much as possible. So to be able to work and interact with the data warehouse in an autonomous way, we've created a new role, which is called DW role. So you can just assign that to your user. Now, anything that you need to do will then be available to that user. So let me create another account. So let's just call it GKL user. So we call it GKL demo. Cut and paste that, save that. So again, it's a cloud account. I need to go in here, pick up my wallet, and then again, you'll see this got automatically populated. So I just need to work out which instance I want to connect to and which resource group we're going to use. And we'll talk about resource groups in another session. So let's do that. Let's test, and we can connect. Okay, so here's my GKL user. And now I can just go ahead and create files. So what I want to do is show you very quickly the new import wizard. So the new import wizard looks very much like the old import wizard, but the source, you can now say, now that we're in the cloud, a cloud environment. So I fortunately happen to have, I did have, if I can find it. Ah, there we go. What I have to do is, again, I am going to need something called a cloud credential. So I'm just going to come out of that for the moment. So what I want to do is load from our cloud object store. So I put a file in the object store that I'm now going to use to create a table and populate it. So the first thing I have to be able to do is access the object store. And to do that, we have a new package called DBMS Cloud. Create credential is the bit that I need to use for this particular part. That's what I'm going to call it. This is the username that I have, and this is the password that I defined to allow me to access the files owned by this user. So now when I go to import data and I say, take me to the cloud, it will say, okay, how do I get a password to allow me to access the cloud? And I'm going to say, I want you to use that username and that password to access the cloud. Now, what I want is, those of you that remember the SH schema, I'm just going to go and pull up our channels CSV file. Now, at this point, it would be nice if I could actually test it to see, okay, does this username and password and everything work? And can I see some data? So what you'll also notice is, let's just quickly try that. Yes, so I've made a connection to our object store, connected, looked at the file and brought back the file information. Remember, I'm in the Frankfurt data center. I've actually gone to a US object store to get hold of that information. So I've had Frankfurt data center talking to our US data center to give me a file that I'm now going to load into the Frankfurt data center. So I've got my file contents. Those of you familiar with the sales history schema will probably recognize that. I can give it a table name, so I'll call it my channels. Import method is a cloud load, which is what I want it to do. It will give me some best guesses in terms of the data type and precision, as you expect. There's nothing particularly drastic here, nothing's changed really. We can test it. Is what I've actually done in terms of setting up that table with the data types and the column widths actually going to work? And I can test it to make sure that it will actually do it, and execution successful. So at this point, I've got my nice tick status here. I can do next. We will give you a huge amount of feedback when we actually build these elements. So you'll see here, there's some additional parts here. DBMS Cloud, remember we used that to create the credentials. There's some other elements to this. Validate external table is another one. All of this is documented. That's it, I'm done. So that's now, it's off.
Cool. Yes. So while that runs, we've had a couple of questions come in. So Tony's wanting to know, if required by an application, can the database parameters be modified?
Oh, okay. That's a very good question. So let's flip back over to here. So when we went through that process, we created our data warehouse instance, and it came up in, what was it, 1 minute 40 seconds. What did it do? The first thing it did was set up all the init.aura parameters. All of those are optimized for the data warehouse workload. In terms of that, we defined how the memory is going to be used, SGA, PGA, all of that. The level of parallelism that is going to be applied, which gets into the high, medium, low work groups that we'll look at in another session. Can you play around, say, with any of these parameters? The only things that you can change that really are specific to you essentially boil down to the NLS settings. How is language going to be managed within your environment? And we allow you to define that yourselves. Obviously, we can set the defaults, and then it's up to you. So in terms of if you're used to setting up your own database and you're happy to set the init.aura parameters, you can't change them in this environment. We take care of that. That is how we're able to deliver the performance we do, because we have complete control over the environment. The same is true of table spaces. So you'll notice, let me go back here, when we do import data, and I went here, there was nowhere in this wizard did we specify which table space we were going to use, which temporary table space we were going to use. When I created the user, even if I go back to here, is it on that? It's on this one. You'll notice I did not specify a user's table space, temporary table space, anything. All of that is fully managed by us. We have complete control over it. So you cannot create a table space, you cannot modify table spaces. And compression is on by default, and you can't change it. So a lot of the, if you like, the traditional type things that you would expect to have control of, they're now all autonomously managed by us. Does that make sense?
You let us know if that helps, Tony. And he had a follow-on question is about patching and upgrade. Are they applied automatically when they are released? I guess when are exactly our patches and upgrades rolled out?
So that's a good question. That is when you sign up. When do we get to go back into here? Remember when we signed into here, we're using our email address. You will get notified by us of any patching activity that's going to happen. I can't show you one of the emails, but we send out automated emails. I get them all the time for this environment in Frankfurt saying it's going to be patched at this particular point in time. The patching cycle is typically once a quarter, unless we get high security patches that need to be applied immediately, at which point those will go in. A lot of the time, the patching will be done with the system remaining online. So in some cases, we may need access to the system, but we guarantee something like 2.5 minutes or something of downtime per quarter or per month, I think it is. That's all. So the worst case scenario is your system may not be available for 2.5 minutes within a month. But all of those, as those patches come out, we have a schedule for applying those. There's a new customer forum infrastructure being put in place, and not only will you get notifications by email, but we will provide information about upcoming patches to that forum environment with the details of the types of areas that we're going to patch. And you should be getting notification of that whole new customer forum infrastructure for all of the cloud systems. I think it's rolling out later this week, if I read my email this morning from that cloud infrastructure team correctly. So there is already on this new infrastructure an autonomous data warehouse cloud forum, where you can come in, you can find information about patches, you can find information about upgrades that we're planning to do, but you can also go ask questions, and product management team, which I'm part of, we'll be monitoring that forum and answering questions for you. Okay, so is there anything else? Oh, yes. Optimizer, the heart of our database. This is what, along with our Exadata platform, gives us the performance capabilities that we have. Again, all of this is fully automated. So as I was loading data, if we go back over to here, you can see I actually get quite a detailed log file that tells me exactly what went on. Part of that process of us loading that data is that we automatically analyze that table and gather as much stats as we can about that table. So when I say, okay, I'm now actually going to run a query against it, and at this point it doesn't really matter how big it is. I can do select star from channels. I think it was my channels, wasn't it? Was it my channels? I think that's what I called it. There. If that was a huge table and it was a fairly complex query, I would know that the optimizer will be able to pick the best plan possible to actually execute that query and return the result set in the most efficient way, because we've done automatically gone and gathered all the necessary stats that we need. Now you can, as a DBA, if there's additional stats that you think would be beneficial as well, histogram stats, for example, might be add something more to the execution plan, you can manually go and gather those as well. In terms of hints, most of the hints that you apply are going to largely be ignored. Again, because this is an autonomous system, we want to make sure that the optimizer has full control over how the query is executed. And one of the features that is turned on by default, again, you can't turn it off, it's on by default, this is an autonomous system, is the result cache. The result cache is enabled, so we can take results and make them available for reuse by other queries. So there's a lot of capabilities here that have been in the database that you're probably aware of. You've probably used a lot of these performance tuning, these deployment capabilities when you set up your own projects. We've turned them on by default, and we're now, if you like, putting them behind the scenes. And you don't have to worry about them. We're just going to take care of all of that for you. And all you need to do is work out, okay, how do I get data in? How do I run queries? What's the best way for me to write a query to access the data sets that I'm going to use? So what I would, probably going to run out of time now, so I will not go into this. What I'd like to do is, with Stephen and Chris's help, is maybe set up an office hours group for this, and then we can start looking at, okay, we can start looking at some demos for things like scaling, showing you how you can run queries and see the system keeping those queries alive and running while we actually scale the service up or down. We can look at the performance monitoring. If we go, it's back on this one, isn't it? Activity. What is all of this information that we have in here? What are these high, medium, low groups? Why do I need to know about them? What do they do for me? How can I manipulate queries to run in one or the other? So there's a lot of, I know we're saying this is an autonomous system and we take care of everything for you, but there's still an awful lot of ways in which you can interact with the system, the way that you can optimize your workloads. We can go into the SQL statements here. You get access to all the SQL tuning that you're probably used to, and we can drill into that, etc. So I think we have a huge amount of areas that we could investigate with you and show you how you can dive into this new product and understand how some of these autonomous features are being used and how you can work with them to make sure that your data warehouse runs in the most efficient way and runs in the way that works for you. So I think we'll defer some of this to another session.
Yeah, that was really great. Is there much else? We're pretty much on the hour. So is there anything else you wanted to mention before we close this off today, Keith? Or
no, if you want to get started, as I said, if you go to cloud.oracle.com, you can try our cloud services free of charge. We will give you $300. That's 3,500 hours of time on our cloud account, and it's not limited to just the autonomous data warehouse cloud service. You get to try anything and everything. So you can connect autonomous data warehouse cloud to Oracle Analytics Cloud, for example, and that would be a great way to get started. And if you've got any questions, then obviously feel free to let me know. You can email me either via Twitter or LinkedIn or through my blog, or just email me directly, keith.laker@oracle.com.
Perfect. Thanks, Keith. I think that's great. I think, like you say, I'm sure people will have a lot more questions. So we'll start planning out some more of these office hours in the future. As people have asked, if you want to see the recordings of this, if you just go back to the office hours page, you can see all the previous ones. The recording for this will be available in a day or two. Just need to process it, get it uploaded. If you have questions about this as well, you can also submit them on the office hours pages. So if you register and say, I've been playing around with or data warehouse cloud, autonomous data warehouse cloud, and I can't figure out what all this means or blah, 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 have a fiddle with that. And then me and Keith will do our best to help you out. So they say, we're here to help you be more successful. We want to make sure, we think this is a fantastic service, make your life a lot easier when it comes to this data warehousing in terms of provisioning and using the service. So we hope you enjoy this. More importantly, we hope you learned something. Please come back in the future, and thanks for joining us. All right, bye.